funky, and we'll see if anything funky is going to happen in this draft, because we do have game number 1 champ select between Crown Zero and Kanga.
That we certainly do. Thank you very much there, Nat. Let's load into this one then, Max, and see what happens as Ground Zero take to the left with their first pick priority. They're going to have that in both games, actually, as Kanga decided to go for red on both occasions. So let's see if you're right and if they've got anything spicy prepared to upset the apple cart.
So what's interesting to me here is Kanga have already taken away the Lucian and Rumble, who we already mentioned previously yesterday. Just stomping, right? They're incredibly strong at this point in time. Rumble wins basically every top lane, can roam down and help you secure those grubs early on. And the Lucian ban as well, taking away the AD carry, but that does leave up the LeBlanc here for Kisei. We know he's a very prolific LeBlanc player, likes to get in your face. And that's available, but so is this Ashe.
That's interesting. That is really, really interesting. They actually value Ashe more than LeBlanc. We know that Benvi loves it. He played a whole bunch of it when Support Ashe first came into play last season, but to say that we don't even care about the LeBlanc is a massive one. This will be the first time we get to see Ashe. So it will be exciting at just that. And you mentioned the brand as well for Invictus being that champion that could be a little bit spicy. Well, it's been denied.
Yeah, well, just known for its incredibly fast jungle clear, can clear 6 camps in about 3 minutes and just get active on the map, which is incredibly strong. Now, what's very interesting here to me is this Jax blind pick. You're going against Tien, Jace is available, Gragas is available, all matchups that make it a living hell for the side of the Jax. So Woodon prioritizing comfort over the potential counter pick that he could have gone on red side. Yeah,
really not concerned about this LeBlanc as well, as we lock in the Jax with the Aphelios as well. So a nice chance for them to continue the 100% presence on that marksman. Surely now, Max, surely now, Grand Zero say, well, you've let it through a second time. We can't afford for this one to be just forgotten about altogether. They're going to consider the Varus for the meantime. Yet to see a Varus, but one of those other champions that seems to still be at the top of the table in terms of you can go poke, you can go on hit. You can really be quite flexible with that champion. Are they going to decide to lock this one in? And they do. So they got themselves a really annoying, very strong early game bot lane that can look to try and apply a bit of pressure.
Yeah, this is the Lemus Benvi classic. They've been together on Kanga, they were together on Bliss in Split 1 as well, and they love playing this style of bot lane. You permanently push, you permanently poke, and if the enemy jungler isn't constantly hovering you, you're going to be taking plates, you're going to be forcing them off waves. So you pair that pushing bot lane with a jungler who can skirmish early like this Jin Zhao, and there's the Pyke we were talking about earlier.
There's the Pyke. I'm excited. You mentioned that Kurak would be a big fan of this one, and if you can punish the squishiness of an Ashe, which has no mobility, it's all about that vision control and your ability to get them low enough that if they do go for that engage, it's not going to work out well for them. So into the second rotation now of those picks and bans. Let's see what Kanga decide to go for. If they feel the need to deny away that LeBlanc, because they will get the first pick after.
But here's the thing, Skimmy, is this is a very, very volatile bot lane, right? You already have the Aphelios who's going to suffer into something like an Ashe Varus who's going to be getting constantly harassed. And if Kurak messes up, if they go in for a kill and it doesn't work out, it's just going to be over for the lane, right? The second you lose control, the second you give over the push and they're able to use the minion waves to their advantage, this Ground Zero bot lane is going to be untouchable for this Pyke. So Kurak, he has a lot of games on it in solo queue. He has about a 60% win rate over the last couple seasons, but will he be able to translate that here today is the really important question.
Certainly is an important question. You've got yourself a fair benchmark to go up against to see if you've got the caliber to pull it off successfully. Gwen as well as Jarvan both being denied here. Out comes the Malphite too, so similarly 2 champions really designed to try and make Jax's life a bit of a living hell. You already mentioned the Gragas being a potential contender, even the Jace too, that we certainly know Tien has in his wheelhouse, whether or not he feels it necessary or if he decides to go for something more complementing of the comp as a whole. What do Ground Zero decide to go for now as their final ban here? Whether or not they feel the need to ban away another jungler. Or, in this case, deny the Lissandra. No pure lockdown.
I mean, Lissandra's a really great ban just because of how easy it is to execute. And when you're playing against a team who you think you have the mechanical advantage over, it just helps to get rid of any easy avenues out of that they do have. Now, to me, the question is, what are you going to go with for your solo lanes? Because like you said, Skimmy, the LeBlanc still is up and available, but the fact that it's fallen through this far in the draft kind of signals you don't want it.
Ooh.
And we're going full pocket pick here, Skimmy. There's 2 squishies in a Jin Zhao. This Rengar pick is looking good for Invictus.
You called out the pocket picks when that was with us before, and it's all come to life now. This certainly is a case to be made that, look, you've drifted away from the meta, and now Grand Zero is saying, well, have at it then. You want squishies, we'll do just that. Forget any kind of counter matchup. We're going to lock ourselves in a Vladimir to make things a little bit more difficult for you. If you want team fights, we'll just blow you up at level 16.
That's a Vladimir top, Skimmy. I cannot think of how long it's been since I've actually seen that in a competitive game. It almost feels like forever since that champion was viable in the top lane. Basically just because it gets run down by all of these bruises, right? Even if you are a Jax who... The scaling's pretty even anyway. If he just constantly jumps on top of you, the lane's pretty hard to play. So it's going to be interesting to see how TN manages to pilot this one in what seems like a pretty hard situation.
It certainly does seem like a bit of a tough situation for you to pilot yourself through, but maybe a case to be made that TN feels like, hey, I know exactly how this one fares. I'm not scared about what your comp brings to the table. There's a world in which I thought, how about we get complete Exodio pocket picks and lock in a Veigar, but with a comp from Kanga that wants to go forward, maybe Veigar not the best option, and a Syndra certainly can find the stuns, find the executes, and make the life of a Pyke and Rengar that much easier.
It's very refreshing, Skimmy, to be able to see a draft like this and there's not a single tank in the lobby, right? The tankiest person in this game is going to be probably the Jax or the Vladimir, and even that, they're bruisers in their own right. So to me, this is a very execution-based game. It's how these players can use these pocket picks to make advantages. Because if you can play around this bot lane, right, if you can burn sums early on this on this Ashe Varus rather, this Pyke and this Rengar can constantly attack them, constantly get fed off them, and then roam around the map to translate that to other lanes. And meanwhile, all that's going to be happening is a scaling affair in the top lane. Hopefully, Woodon's able to pressure TN out before he can scale, but that's left to find out.
That is left to find out. I suppose whilst we've got a bit of a moment to talk about these comps as a whole, let's touch on Vladimir a little bit more, given it's your, I suppose, area of expertise, your lane of preference. Do you feel like he's benefited much by the changes to the API items? Obviously, the reduction of mana being sprinkled over so many?
I mean, in theory, yes, and I think that perhaps some access to the ability haste early on with something like the Moot item that gives you that ability haste for 250 gold could be potentially an avenue that Vladimir can pursue, but to me, it's still the conceptual, the concept of a Vladimir facing a bruiser like Jax in the top lane. Yes, once you get some CDR, you can actually start to bully him out of the lane, but if they're able to apply enough pressure to him early on, they can just force him out, constantly attack him. And he's actually opted for the Ghost 2 Skimmy, so no TP if he does get forced out of the lane.
Yeah, he certainly is looking to be all in on the fight. Very curious to see what kind of build he goes for. Whether or not it'll be like a Rift Maker for pure Omni Vamp, or more about the movement speed with perhaps a Rocket Belt or a Cosmic Drive. Either way, let's load ourselves into the Rift here for the very first game and the only series of today for Game 2, or Day 2 rather, of the opening week here in a brand new split of the LCO. It's Ground Zero up against Kanga. Ground Zero looking to make a bit of an impact here with a star-studded roster. As for Kanga, a chance for a handful of new players to make their debut and show up on what you'd imagine is their best champion.
And what was a very boring level 1 yesterday has become a very exciting one here with Ground Zero already making their way into the bot side jungle of Kanga here. You can already see that this Ashe Varus, both Hail of Blades level 1, incredibly strong combo if they do find anyone. Able to force a flash, but the hook's on. They shouldn't do too much.
No,
the barriers popped Skimmy.
Don't skewer enough to try and get them excited for a meantime, but Kurak is getting lower and lower, that grey health bar, looking to try and mitigate as much as it can. But I suppose that really is the argument as to what we should expect in this bot lane. Double Hail of Blades up and available. We're going to walk at you without a fear in the world. And if you get too low enough, I mean, how are you ever going to find that stun to get the kill?
Yeah, and Skimmy, now we have a really dangerous situation, right? You can see the map split happening level 1. This means that Shenfire is going to be on this bot side for basically the entirety of his first clear. And when you are playing against an Ashe Varus, you need your jungler to be there. But Invictus has opted to start the enemy blue. He's going to be in that top side of the map, so not really going to be able to protect anything that happens. Perhaps a crashed wave onto this bot lane. We saw so many dives yesterday.
We certainly did. We saw a lot of pushing in the bot lane. Obviously, we saw with the map rework as well, a fair bit of punishment going towards that lane too, with the access to new lanes as well as those pushes. Made it a little bit annoying to try and contend with. So bot lane, obviously an area to keep our eyes peeled on. Very volatile in that fashion for the points we've already mentioned. We've talked about how that top lane should be slightly skewed in favor of Woodon, who did lock in this Jax as a first pick, bear in mind. Didn't really care whatsoever, and I suppose hasn't been truly punished as you would imagine so. But for the jungle matchup, I guess would be our pseudo-tanky members. How do you see this one faring?
It fares exactly like this if they can get this map split here. They're level 1 Skimmy under turret. They need to get some XP. They need to get level 2.
Looking for Relay, instant flash away, but it doesn't matter. He's flashed right into the W, and a great flash away by Benvi denies any kind of follow-up, any kind of trade. As one turret aggro goes to Lemus, it gets dropped for the meantime. His minions come back into effect, but Shenfire jumps in. He gets a double. He might flash to try and survive, but no! The turret's already locked in place, but look, 2 kills to go out to the base with, you'll be happy.
Skimmy, look at that wave as well. There's already been 1 turret plate taken, and this is the danger of not respecting a level 1, right? Rilla is coming back, only level 1. very few CS in his back pocket, and it's because of that level 1 invade. It's because of that map split, and then suddenly, because you traded level 1 like that, using the barrier aggressively, you're not able to actually contest prio. The ground zero bot lane is able to stack a wave, and then suddenly the game is blown wide open.
I don't know about you, Max, but I got flashbacks to last year where you saw Schönfire just diving bot lane repetitively, saying, Violet, we're going to get you as fed as possible. Then it had a point where you had Dongi coming down as well. It was just like 4v2s on repeat, and we just said, okay, PGG, all they do is dive bot and win the game. And if that's a kind of a similar recipe here, because we know that with Kisei on this champ, with this build going for AD, you get a few items under your belt, suddenly you're going to be pushing, crashing, rotating. It's going to be a scary time for Reeler and Kirak.
It absolutely will be, and both solo lanes in the meantime are actually winning their respective lanes, right? Despite the map split, TN has a very healthy HP advantage and isn't really gankable at any stage, right? Rengar can't really do much against the Vladimir pre-6, especially with the Ghost available. He will just pull and run out of there. And now Woodon has the awkward situation where he needs to push this wave out, but he doesn't have the HP and he has no pots left.
Certainly doesn't, so it's going to be a bit of a rough affair for him, but we do see that Invictus was making his way down towards the bot lane, not going to commit to anything just yet. See a fair bit of damage actually going onto Woodon here, as Tien is getting himself closer and closer to execute range, but is enough to force out the ward leap away, so Woodon will go back to base, pick up some items, and TP back in. Now that is the major difference, right? He's got the ability to rotate and cheat tempo, as opposed to Tien. It's all about that combat prowess.
Yeah, absolutely. So Woodon will be coming back in a little bit stronger in terms of those items, but Tien has the wave in an ideal spot, right? The later this matchup goes, besides hyper late game, you're feeling pretty good, right? The second you can get some CDR on this Vladimir, you become a real problem for the Jax, whose real strong point in this matchup is levels 1 through 3, right? He should be able to jump on top of the Vladimir's head and kind of just zone him off a little bit because Vladimir doesn't have the ability to deal with that. He will be able to get the wave crash here, and as we're talking about this Vladimir Skimmy, this is actually the first Vladimir we've seen in Season 14 globally in any league, and there were only 5 games of Vladimir top last split total. So definitely a pick that's come out of left field, but definitely one Tien's been practicing behind the scenes.
Well, for sure. I think Tien's always had one of those interesting champion pools, right? And maybe not as wild and wacky as, say, a Biopanther that can literally play anything. But hold that for 2 seconds. You say his name, he falls to the grave. That's unfortunate for him. A lot of pressure going their way. Meanwhile, Invictus is looking to try and pick up some Void Grubs, but in the bot lane, it's all about Schönfire diving them and saying this Aphelios will have 0 fun and 0 time to shine here, as the Pyke is not being able to find much value at all, just constantly stuck underneath the turret, looking for a bone skewer. Bendy sidesteps with ease. In we go. Wind becomes lightning, and the kills keep being found.
It's a little bit messy, Skimmy. They do not manage to find the Aphelios initially with a 100-0 combo, but it works out in the end, right? And again, this Aphelios is 20 CS down, no summoners, losing plates. You can see the frustration on Kurak's face as he realizes that he's playing this Pyke who needs to be aggressive, but all he can do is watch as his AD carries repeatedly dove on the turret.
Yeah, it's a pretty rough affair. Let's check in with the top lane to see how it all starts off. Initially, it just looks like a leap on in. Out goes the Hemo Plague. Tien feeling himself, perhaps, with the Ghost active, and just a flash pounce. Really as simple as it is.
Yeah, I mean, the pool was there. It was available for Tien, I assume, unless it was on cooldown. But that's one of the situations where he just got a little bit overconfident, not really respecting the item disparity that was present. And here, this bot lane again. Kurak makes a nice attempt to try to land the hook on Benvi, but these fast feet prevent any sort of trade coming through.
They certainly do. So 2 lanes to look forward to right now. Worth noting that Schönfire is so far ahead. But speaking of the enemy jungler, Invictus has made his way to top lane. That goes the pull. The instant flash away to make sure that he does not get rooted in place. Otherwise, that would have been a very easy second death. And without any TP, I mean, you just get super punished. So has to show respect, has to play defensively, and has to go back to base again.
Yeah, that's huge. And you can see the assist pings coming out from Tien. He acknowledges that Woodon should be able to hold the freeze here given how the wave was going, but a really nice play to burn the flash of that Vladimir and give Jax a bit more opportunity to run him down in this long lane.
So it's been fairly quiet in the mid lane for the most part. We've yet to really see too much action go around here. I guess both players really are just focused on getting as much CS as possible, which is dead even right now at 67. Just looking to try and keep themselves on pace, get their first item online as quickly as possible. I suppose even more important for Kisei so that he can unlock the ability to roam and help out elsewhere. But I guess for Refury too, to make sure that he's in an even state so he can contest the match.
And here's the problem, Skimmy. I mean, you look at Kurak, right? He's obviously in a very bad situation in the bot lane. But which lane are you actually roaming to, right? This LeBlanc is hyper mobile. We saw yesterday, even a Malzahar ultimate wasn't able to kill that LeBlanc once that double distortion was available. So you're in a situation where you're losing your own lane, and both mid and top on the enemy team are incredibly hard to gank. So Kurak hoping to bring some jungle attention towards his own lane, perhaps take advantage of this flash timer for Lemus.
Yeah, ideally he's going to look to try and find a chance to try and sync up with Invictus, right, and roam and rotate together as two assassins ready to one-shot somebody out of existence, because you're looking already 9 minutes into this game. Ground Zero are steadily building themselves up a 2k gold lead, and Schönfire, with the only bounty, sitting at 3-1, is going to go for a nice little invade here on the enemy Reds. Now, we'll know that Invictus is here after chucking out that. But whether or not he decides to stick around in the area, there is prio in both top and mid for them to get first move and rotate. But you can see Tien going for the Hemo Plague once again. Both down to about 50%. Whether or not Woodon fancies this, decides to commit again.
Yeah, and I think Rengar is more than happy taking that 1v1, sitting on the serrated Dirk that he is now. But I think the thing that's holding him back is the solo lane priority, right? You could see there, as Trade's coming on bot lane.
Yes, the Moonlight Vigil getting chucked out there, but nothing really coming off it. I mean, this wave has been constantly pushed underneath the start from the very first minute here. See Rengar charging up the ultimate. In we go once again. Kurik's managed to find that bone skew onto Ben. There goes the ignite. The damage not enough to find it as Lemus just gets free reign to Pepper. Pike down. And that's his third death of the game, and the Pike's not finding success.
Yeah, it was a nice hook onto Benvi there, but he wasn't taking turret aggro, so it doesn't actually end up having the lethal damage to kill him, especially with how underfed this Aphelios is. He's really low, Skimmy. Has the double summons, though. Could look for a trade here.
Could try and do something here.
Never
Could look
mind.
to try and get onto anything, but it's just not going to happen. Concedes it, loses all their plates, and that'll be the first turret falling down, dead on 10 minutes.
I think
Or not.
Kurak might have just gotten back in time to save it here. The Varus Flash is coming back up, but they don't have ultimates, so probably just going to look to crush this wave and reset. But even then, Skimmy, I mean, look at that item disparity. Look at the CS. 30 CS at 10 minutes is the difference here. As we have a bit of a skirmish towards this top side.
They certainly do. Looking to try and contest this one is Schönfire, given that they lost all 3 Void Grubs in the previous occasion. He's going to instantly flash across that wall, feeling the burden of 3 members of Kanga being in the area. This would be massive for them, maybe a stabilizing factor. If they can claim every single one, at least they've got that for them to offer some kind of siege and structural gain. Back to
Yeah,
base does go Schönfire, picks up the Titanic Hydra, but that's what he can settle for.
I think this is their 5th, Skimmy, because I believe Invictus picked up the first 3 as well earlier on. Schönfire managed to steal away 1, but crucially, if they do have that 5th one, that is going to allow them to spawn that Void Mite when they are attacking the turret. So, yes, they're behind, but Kurak's found.
Kurak has been found. Up, stun, blast cone denied, and death again. And I suppose this really is Ground Zero sending a message, clear and simple, that welcome to the league, and this ain't solo queue.
Yeah, this is not a fun game to be this Pyke right now. If Pyke is playing from behind, you are just this squishy little thing. Who will die to the first piece of history that hits you? As top lane's trading.
Gonna play going out into the pool. He's waiting out the counter-strike. Beautifully timed. One more. And he just flashes away just out of range from Tien as a massive wave was crashing underneath his turret. Stuck in a bit of indecision here, but don't tell me he goes to the face check in towards that pixel bush. There goes the counter-strike. One more auto. He just needs to weave it in. Woodon on 50 HP absolutely clutches it.
Woodon completely turns it around. You thought he was out, and to be honest, I think so did Tien as well. But he takes advantage of that bush, takes advantage of the time where the Vladimir W is down. And Skimmy, he gets his 2nd solo kill in this matchup.
It's massive, a huge factor, and he said he wasn't nervous. We asked him twice during that interview, and he said, no, I am definitely not nervous. Nameplates are off, I'm vibing, I'm versus these guys in solo queue. I'm locking in Jax. First pick on red side, I do not care.
And Skimmy, look, it obviously is a tough game for the side of Kanga, but if there's one champion you want to be fed in this game, it is this Jax, right? You're up against this triple ranged AD carry setup that is going to get so much value, that Counter-Strike providing so much threat in these fights. But as for now, Skimmy, how do they actually do anything? There's a TP committed to Rengar's here.
Looking for it nice and early, death from above coming on through, looking to try and find the kill on towards the Lemus. They are successful in that with 3 members being in the area, make it 4 now as Re-Theory rocks up for the final blow and claims his first of the game.
That's exactly what Kanga need there. They ease the pressure, they TP in, they use the Rengar ultimate, and they find a double kill. It was also really nicely executed by Kurak on the Pyke there, not greening the ult, instead of using it to gap close onto Lemus, who didn't expect that and doesn't use the flash. So for now, the bleeding is stemmed a little bit.
Let's watch it back one more time, because it all starts off with Lemus initially just channeling his Q, right? He gets stuck in animation, realizes I can't do much. Benvi can't offer much support, his ult's already been burnt. Just 2 sitting ducks.
Yeah, and a nice TP in by Re-Fury here too, right? He's had quite a quiet game so far, but able to get himself on the board there with that one, and is actually keeping up quite well with this LeBlanc in terms of CS, right? We see often when this LeBlanc mid is picked that it just runs away with the lane in terms of its ability to push and shove once that static shiv comes through, but doing nicely, only about 10 CS the difference.
So I suppose what are the ideal matchups here as we start to break away from the more conventional laning phase? Would you like to see the Syndra always be there to match that of the LeBlanc? Or would you always say that, like, you know, with Woodon being this strong, surely he's there to always take him on? Right now, still matching with Tien, given that he has had to find, what, 2 solo kills into it. But I take into consideration all those Void Grubs you've picked up. The split push pressure is always going to be there to try and equalize what this LeBlanc can do.
Yeah, certainly a lot of threat there from the Jax in the side lane. Look, I would say you want him against the Vladimir in this long lane just because playing against LeBlanc, he's not really able to get much done, right? At least against Vladimir, he can jump on him, wait for the pull to be used, and then jump on him again, whereas LeBlanc is almost always going to have that distortion to match you, and the chains as well to keep you at bay. So I think this current setup is okay here for the side of Kanga. Hopefully they can use these extended lanes with the broken turrets to allow Woodon to extend his advantage.
Let's see then if the lane assignments do favour Kanga, as you can see right now that Schönfire is going to start up the next objective spawning in the top half of the map, which will be the Herald. They're going to try and extend their objective lead in different ways, right? They've managed to pick up 2 dragons, which we haven't mentioned so far, so maybe playing for a little bit more of a slower style of game, just hitting crucial item spikes, right? Going to be some cheap item spikes to that, right? Given that you've got the Yomu's lethality variation of the Varus, couple that with the energized static shiv of the LeBlanc too. So surely now with the Herald in tow, they'll be fancying their chances to try and crack open a few more turrets in mid.
I mean, and the thing with when you're playing with this bot lane is how early and how strong they spike, right? You mentioned it's the lethality Varus build. He's going to be able to do so much damage compared to what the Aphelios can pump out at this stage, right? So you're playing with this Herald in your pocket. You feel very comfortable just hitting on mid lane as Benvi's been found potentially. He
has been found, and Ward is not going to connect to try and reveal Invictus this time yet. He's going to use the Blast Cone to dash over back into the Dragon Pit, but certainly in the jungle. Very risky business with all those bushes for a Rengar to hide on fruit. Kisei just going to jump out of harm's way as he is still matching up into the Syndra. And Limus going to return to a fell down just moments prior to try and finish the job onto that tier 1. Chance of Corruption not going to land. Let's me show a little bit of respect here as members are converging to try and take him down.
But even that damage gimme from 1 Q that Rilla tanked is going to have to send him back to base there. You can already see how scared he is. He does have the cleanse, but you're playing against a Varus and an Ashe, right? So there are 2 potential things that could come at you. And as long as you're ground 0, you are very happy just putting a bot lane mid, waiting for them to get work done. And this Rengar not going to achieve too much besides the heal from Limus.
No, he's on the hunt looking for something, but not going to find what he's after, given that the dash across the wall there from Kurak wasn't successful in at least lining up a well-positioned Bone Skewer. Either way, though, I suppose we're most impressed, really, by Woodon. We're still going to be looking at him as the sole focus. Despite them being down 4,000 as a collective, he is still going to be right up there. Let's actually check in to see individually where he is. And, yeah, top of the table for his team, but not too far behind is Refury.
But it's still overwhelming there for ground 0, isn't it? Still up by 1,000 with those 3 members there. And the question for me now is, when do you fight this dragon? Because you can see Kanga wanting to get some wards, wanting to place their vision, but they are so outmatched by how deep ground 0 have these wards. You can see Kurak right now sitting on top of one. It makes it so hard to walk into these champions, especially when you're playing someone as fragile as a Pyke. I think they're just going to give it Skimmy, perhaps play for this top lane turret with Syndra.
Yeah, no ability to really try and contest this one. Refury with TP available, but choosing not to use it, opting for what has been a pretty common practice, right?
Oh,
Which
no
is
way.
To wait for that 4th and final soul point contest. There's the cross map ult. It lasts such a long time. Oh, his ankles are being broken. Kisei, he's going to receive the ult to the face, but it does not matter. He just tanks it, pops his clone, and it looks like both mid laners will just walk away.
Archangels is pretty balanced, right? That shield is the thing that manages to save Kisei there as Kurak is looking, but Kisei will finish his base there. It was a very nice arrow, like you mentioned, as Woodon made it fancy end.
3 times the charm. It's no longer a fluke. Max, Woodon is the real deal. He's going to try and deny himself to tower as well. Schönfire, can he break the distance? He's got flash, but does he want to commit it? You'd surely imagine not. Closer and closer he gets with the counter-strike there. Can anybody snipe the kill before he falls on down 1 auto? Kisei's done it. And the party's over.
Yeah, but like you mentioned, Skimmy, that's the 3rd time this game that we've seen TN fall to the hands of Woodon. So what was actually a counter matchup that TN opted into has proven to be his downfall so far. Jax just making really good use of this extended lane. And like we mentioned, right, Jax has so much DPS that he can really deal with the Vladimir. The pull isn't really that annoying to him. So especially with how far ahead he is now, he can feel free to keep jumping on him. As we take a look at what happens here, it looks like TN just walks up, greeds a little bit too much for these minions, and yes, he has the pull, doesn't use it to block the counter-strike. And again, overconfidence that Woodon baits him in and takes him out.
Yeah, it just looks like you popped the ghost, you've greeted the blood pool as you mentioned already, and it's just a case of, well, I can just run you down as a result. I suppose my question to you then is, given that this was an elected matchup, and you would much prefer something like the Gregos or the Jace that you highlighted, is your best case scenario now just getting to late game as quickly as you can and just having that straight 5v5 and saying, well, maybe I'm behind, but at least my ult is amping the rest of my team?
Yeah, look, I still think Vlad will be always relevant. I mean, looking at his CS now, he is still actually ahead with that 140 at about 8 CS per minute. So by no means is this Vladimir weak in the whole context of the game. It's just that at this point, when you are far behind versus the Jax, it's hard to match that 1v1. The best you're going to be hoping for is to wave clear. And speaking of wave clear, Skimmy, that is something that Kanga and Rilla especially are really suffering from a lack of.
Yeah, they have so much damage to try and execute a single target, but they're getting pressured across the map like you would not believe. All that pressure in the bot lane that was designed to do one thing, make Kurek not have a fun time, is kind of snowballed across the map, and they're just taking turrets for free. 2-1, soon to be 3.
Rengar's here.
As the Herald does charge on through and get that kill, but Lima's flashing across the wall. Out goes Chain Corruptions. He's got no enchanting. He's dodged the death from below, but he can't dodge death from Refury. He's unleashed his power. He's walked away, and they'll make it a 2-1.
Oh, it's so frustrating there, Skimmy. Invictus didn't have the fury to be able to use his Empower W and break free of that CC chain. Perhaps he could have lived, perhaps he could have killed Limus earlier. And then as well, like you mentioned, Kurak's ultimate not landing, not able to give him the reset. So what looks like a good capitalization from the side of Kanga only ends up with 1 kill and a 1-for-1 at that.
It's an interesting consideration, I suppose, when you talk about different comp identities and like assassins, very scary, no tanks in the game, yada yada. It's like, well, that's fantastic, and you can see what it's doing when they do go for that straight 5v5. But Granzo kind of seem a little bit undeterred, like, well, if you're only looking for fights, we're just going to siege, we're going to take objectives, and we're just going to plant as much vision as we can, so we sort of know when it's to be expected, when it's coming, so we're not caught off guard.
Yeah, that's the thing that to me has impressed me about Ground Zero the most. As we take a look at this replay again, a lot of damage actually coming down from the Moonlight Vigil from Rilla here. And here it is, crucially Invictus, he jumps in and has 3 Fury here, so he's not able to use his Empowered W until the very end of that fight before he goes down. And the Pike ult missing as well is just tragic. So look, trading 1-for-1 in this game state, I would definitely say is something to be commended. At this point, you're trying to get as much gold and trying to recover as much as you can. And using Invictus in kind of unorthodox positions like this can be a way to do that.
Certainly can be. There's a pretty big item spike now found in the mid lane here for Refury. He's picked up the Storm Surge. Already sitting on 4 stacks of the Darksteel as well, so he's really hoping, as well as hunting, for more kills to get that one ready to rock and roll. We saw how broken the Archangels was for the mitigation it provided before. But that is to be said that Kislei's matched that too now by picking up a sword of his own. Even more energizing. He'll look to shove those waves and make sure that Kanga's life is even harder to try and find those avenues and those flanking opportunities. Next Dragon, the Soul Point, Ocean at that in 30 seconds. And I think that might be a little bit too much regen for Kanga to try and fight through. As Chain of Corruption goes out, the ult from Ashe as well. And Kurak gets absolutely deleted. No chance to survive. Shurnfire flashing on his head. It's a bruiser, it's a tank, it's a jungler, but it's also a carry when a Titanic Hydra is there. And Victus will answer back on his own. All he can find is Limas. Already burnt double summoners in the fight prior, but out comes the TP, looking to try and answer this one back with some kind of fighting chance. Woodon now 4-1. Can he find any more? As Kisei looks to try and get one of his own. Tien removes that negative KDA by finding 2 to his name now, and Invictus, surrounded by bushes, is jumping left, right, and center, but he doesn't have enough. And Woodon is trying to do it all on his own. 3 teammates dead to Counter-Strike. Gets denied by the distortion in.
Skimmy, it looked good there for a second. They traded 2 for 2, Kanga did, but at the end it's Kisei who comes in and Tien over the top of him, and it becomes a difference maker. This LeBlanc now sitting with a 700 gold bounty, 4-0-1. And despite... Oh, Kurak takes another arrow.
No, a map, cross-map ult from Benvi there. Perfect. Second time it's happened. A little bit too easy for him to line up.
Second time it's happened, Skimmy, and now the Dragon is all in the hands of Ground Zero. As Rilla's misstepped here.
He certainly has. He's going to get caught by those chains. Kislei's clone goes out, and Sweet dreams him as well. Fantastic flash. Dodging that Scatter of the Week. Otherwise, he would have been in a ton of trouble there, but they can disengage away now, respawn, reset, and look for Soul Point.
This game just feels like Kisei's playground at this point, right? You can see the fight initially goes well. Kurak actually finds a pick onto Limas, who is way too far up, but he, in return, gets absolutely exploded. Luckily, a nice gun setup here for Rilla means that he is able to take down Benvi whilst he's getting killed by the hands of Shurnfire. And a very nice double jump from Invictus to be able to get the kill onto Limas. But here, Woodon jumps in and it's looking good for the side of Kanga, but the second Kisei arrives at this fight, there's just too much damage.
Far too much damage out of the replay, back to live action. Tien in trouble right now out of the blood pool and running back to mid lane, but Kisei is godlike, both AP mages finding a kill of their own. They've removed the jungler as well as that Pyke too. Now Baron is a real prospect with Soul Point there for them as well. They've got the region, they've got no fear in the world. A 7-0 LeBlanc and a Baron that will be started now.
Yes, Gimme, a Baron that will be started, an 80 carry who will be killed off in the mid lane here as well. It's gone from bad to worse for Kanga as they can't even find Kisei. He just distorts back, and now 3 kills down. Ocean Soul in hand and a Baron. Ground Zero are making steps to set themselves up 1-0.
Looking like the icing on the cake here for Ground Zero as they were up by a healthy 4 to 5k margin. A lot of that just coming from greater wave clear and stronger sieging. As you can see, 3 turrets to 1 at the moment. That's soon to really balloon out of control here, because with every buff in hand, they can go for another kill. Out goes the air shot. They found their target. Wudong will counter-strike away. Unfortunately, that fate will not be the same there for their star mid laner. Refury is dead and down for 40 seconds. As Wudong will run back to the sanctuary of their own base, but they realize that 2 lanes have been collapsed upon at once.
I mean, Skimmy, these arrows are almost just aimbot the way that Benby has always been finding a target with them, always finding a kill as well. And now that you've lost this Syndra, you lose that ability to throw out these stuns, which has been one of your main ways to actually find picks in the first place. So it's going to be this double inhibitor going over. They have a wave, Skimmy. They might just be looking for the end.
You really need to hope that Ground Zero continues to stay clumped up like this and that Wudong can land the biggest stun of his life so far. Here we go. Look at that damage from that! Really didn't even have a chance to react. He was dead before he even knew what happened. 2 inhibitors are dead, 2 Nexus turrets are taken. It's an exposed base at that. And as Refury spawns, he chucks in an all, but it's not going to be enough. 25 minutes. And that is them closing it out. You can see Tien there, maybe a little bit of relief as well, having been solo boloed maybe a fair few too many times.
I mean, Kanga tried something that game, Skimmy, but Ground Zero simply do not care. They simply say, we are the better team, we are the better players, and it just seemed like destruction all throughout that bot lane. They were constantly pushing, using a map split to make those dives, and then from then on, Rilla and Crack were completely out of the game.
A debut for the new players on the side of Kanga. They got to showcase their brand new pocket picks, but can they run it back to even up the series right after the break?